So, hi Vaido, it's nice to see you here today in Deep Tech Atelier in Riga. I have heard that you are a big fan of sci-fi.
Yes, I am. Unfortunately, less and less these days there is time to really read and watch everything as the real life is taking its toll, but definitely have been since a small kid interested about exploration.
So, if we are trying to remember the days when you were a small kid, what were the things you saw in movies, in books that was really big, fantastic things, and now it is reality? Can you remember some things?
Well, as a kid, and especially if you are a boy, then you're always looking at, laser sword fights and everything, and starships fighting with each other. And so a lot of things you don't really grasp at the same way as you are looking at now. And just coming from the two first speeches at Deep Tech Atelier, where Inma and I have already forgotten the name of the second guy, were talking about what is happening, how we are actually creating lunar habitats, how we are exploring deep space and interstellar space. I think that the sci-fi and the reality are mixing with each other. So this is super cool to see that all kind of communication stuff that seemed really like high-tech or sci-fi is now an everyday phenomena. And I think we are going to see a lot more of those things coming up. 3D printing, everything.
What about today's sci-fi movies? Do you see something in these that is even too much for you, that you can't believe that it will be reality after some 10-20 years?
Something that is interesting that I have observed, and maybe it's because I've grown older and my own taste has changed a bit, is that sci-fi has always been a mixture of psychology, of a human nature, not only about the evolution of technology, but also about the evolution of human nature. And also the mixing in the biology and looking at the evolution of the whole ecosystem, of the whole planet. So this is what I'm seeing actually coming in more and more in current sci-fi, and this is really interesting, that where do we evolve as a human race? So super interesting stuff. So, and I can't say that nothing or anything is impossible. Life has proven me wrong and wrong times again, that as soon as I say that this cannot be done, it's like 2 days goes by and it has happened.
Can you rename some examples?
There is one book that I'm reading from Tchaikovsky, I think Adrian Tchaikovsky, Children of Time, when the human race has destroyed itself and has sent out like a kind of a Noah's Ark kind of ship, where there is a combination of AI, the symbiosis of man and machine, and also how the biology and how other species have evolved and developed an intellect. So I wouldn't be surprised that the creatures that people are very afraid of, like such spiders or snakes, that they will become super intelligent in some time. So yeah, can't go more specific than that, unfortunately, right now.
Thanks. It's interesting how it will go. Well, you are in Startup Estonia. You are the head of deep tech sector.
Yep.
Yes. How would you describe what's happening in Estonian deep tech sector?
Oh, that's a very good question. In a way, we are still in the baby's cradle, and we want the baby to run and grow up very fast. At the same time, cradle has, like 4 walls. We have a lack of human resource, we have lack of capital, we have some regulations, and then we have still some misconceptions in the public. So we are actually walling the poor baby in, and then we are saying, run baby, run. That we want to have 500 deep tech startups. That the head of Latvian Investment and Development Agency said that, Estonian Minister of Economic Affairs said yesterday that Estonia wants to have 500 deep tech startups. And he really said that yesterday, so you are well informed. Now the Latvians are saying that, yes, we want to beat the Estonians. So the scene itself is blooming, but at the same time, there is still a lot to do, that we are not up to par with the top ecosystems in the world. We are not the Cambridges, the MITs, the DARPAs, the Israelis of the world yet. But we are in a good position that I don't want to somehow downgrade us. So a lot of is going on, but a lot is still to do.
What is needed to do to help deep tech startups, deep tech sector? What can state and policymakers do?
There are three key issues that are hindering the growth of startups, let's say, especially in deep tech startups. As I said, that it's the lack of people, lack of capital, and to some extent, lack of access to infrastructure. And the question is what the state or what the public can do. I think we can develop a higher risk tolerance, that we can give the deep tech some sort of instruments for market discovery, for finding the problem solution fit, that right now perhaps we are too focused on R&D side and a little bit less focused on the business development side, that the best ecosystems, what I see is they are also tackling the human resources side, that they are giving away quite free grants for market discovery and for hiring in the business leads. And Estonians, Latvians, we are really good engineers, we are really good researchers, really good scientists, and we are developing the business skills, but this, I would say, comparatively is still lacking, and that's where the public eye could be turned to.
Can you name some nice Estonian deep tech startup examples we should know?
I'm biased, of course, because a couple of them come to my mind immediately since I've worked with them really closely. Since one of the topics in this conference is photonics, then light code photonics is one really up and coming and promising startup in Estonia, led also by the female CEO and co-founder. Then there is Gearbox Biosciences, again tapping on to the biology and how the biology or bioengineering will grow. And if you are talking about few bigger players, then of course Starship Technologies, you know, those small robots that everybody has seen, that in Estonia there was a robot traffic jam, is perhaps the known one. And also Skeleton Technologies cannot be unmentioned in this conversation from Estonia. So few up and coming ones, few big ones.
Really nice collection, thank you. Well, what about Baltics? What are your impressions? What's happening in Baltics?
I think Baltics is perceived as one region quite a lot, and we like to draw borders ourselves, and we like to compare ourselves that, yeah, you know, what the Latvians are doing, what the Lithuanians are doing, what Estonians are doing. Estonians, of course, are talking about the new Nordics, that we want to be in the same sandbox with the Swedes and Finns. So I think overall the situation is the same. As I mentioned, that the research is really strong, and more we are getting the capital in as well. So the seed phase funding it's still tough, but it's not impossible. And there is a gap, let's say, between the Series A and the seed funding. Or in deep tech, the seed funding is also 3 to 6 times higher. The needs are higher. So kind of developing our sense of how to say it, respect maybe even, that we can do great things here as well, that we don't need to relocate, that we can keep the businesses here, we can build the stuff here. But we need to address, of course, the human capital issue, that this is tough.
And in which sectors do you see the biggest potential of Baltics?
That's been asked multiple cases, and I am not sure if we can put our finger today on one sector, because, as I said, we are a small country, small ecosystems, and up to this point we have tried to develop all areas kind of equally. That we haven't really focused that, let's say, that let's take space, or let's take photonics, or let's take, I don't know, AI or machine learning, whatever it is. So there isn't real critical mass, especially if you're looking at outside, that, you know, yeah, the Baltics is the gravity center of this particular field. Something that we have been discussing within Estonia with a couple of colleagues is that green tech perhaps is an area where we have industry, where we have research capacity, and we have willingness to move. For instance, if you compare it with the health tech or med tech, we don't have that many big pharmas and the industrial expertise, because innovation is born, you know, when the old industry and the new ideas meet. So there has to be kind of a mixture of both. So we'll see, and life will definitely surprise us, that something is coming up that we cannot see coming.
Excellent, thank you so much for the conversation.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thanks.